Excel accounting practice problem. Receive payment from previous invoice. Get ready because we're going to excel. Here we are in our Excel worksheet. In prior presentations, we put together the worksheet from a blank sheet, now entering transactions into it. If you have access to it, there's going to be two tabs down below, an example tab and a practice tab. The practice tab starting off where we ended at last time. The example tab, in essence, being an answer key. Let's take a look at it now. We're going to be receiving payments on account, meaning we invoiced sometime in the past. In this case, in the prior period, meaning we had the accounts receivable in place from the beginning balances. We're going to be receiving payments on them, which the complication will be that we have to decrease the accounts receivable. The other side has to be decreased to the subledger that we need to be concerned with. And the added complication we often don't see in accounting theory types classes is that we're going to have the other side go into undeposited funds, a clearing account, instead of going directly into the checking account. Theory classes will typically have it go directly into an account called cash and not have to worry about this extra step. But in practice, you do have to worry about the extra step and determine whether or not it's something that you need to be concerned with. That being that the checking account needs to be matching up not only in ending balance, not only being accurate in terms of the data input, but also the data in terms of how it's being input or grouped in the general ledger needs to tie out to how the grouping will be put in place into the bank statement so that you can reconcile our books to the bank statement, comparing the two in the reconciliation process, a huge internal control. So we're going to do that, then we're going to use a clearing account, and you can imagine situations where this will come into place. For example, if you are working at a check register and you're getting paid cash, then if you record everything into the checking account every time you receive payments throughout the day and you receive 100 payments, for example, then go to the bank and deposit those payments into the bank at one lump sum, we in our books are going to have 100 payments that should add up to that one lump sum deposited into the bank account. But when we reconcile the two, that's a lot more difficult to do. The other common example would be that if we're getting paid with some other system, such as a credit card company acting as the intermediary, they're going to be receiving payments. They're going to group those payments together. They're going to put those payments into our checking account. And again, we need to put them in our accounting system in a way that we could tie out to what's being shown on the bank statement so that we can match those two up in the reconciliation process. To do that, we're going to make a clearing account, undeposited funds. This is what I would call a clearing account, different than a temporary account. Temporary accounts being income statement accounts and some equity accounts like the investment account or draws, which are going to close out periodically, monthly, at the end of the month, for example, or end of the year. The clearing account will close out, meaning go back to zero much more rapidly for a specific purpose. In this case, the purpose being for us to group the deposits in the same format as they will be seen on the bank statement when we roll them into then the checking account. Okay, let's check it out then. We're going to go back on over to the practice tab. We're going to do some cleanup to get ready from the last part that we were in. I'm going to hide some cells first. I'm going to hide from Skinny J, putting our cursor on Skinny J column, going all the way over to A to Skinny J. We're going to right click on those cells and we're going to hide them. Hide those cells. Then we're going to take our ending balances over here and we're going to make them our beginning balances and then clean out our entries. So we got this nice worksheet focusing in on just the activity we are doing at this time. So we're going to take these ending balances, right click, I'm going to copy them. Going to put them over here in Q4, right click and paste 1, 2, 3 values only. There we have that. I'm going to delete now the entries in the middle column, taking those middle entries and deleting them. So now we've got our nice worksheet here that'll focus just on what we're working on, the general ledger giving us the detail for the entire month of activity. So now that we have set up, we're going to then, let's take a look at the subsidiary ledger. This accounts receivable represents who owes us money. The subsidiary ledger, this accounts receivable represents how much people owe us. The subsidiary ledger breaks it out by who owes us the money. So that's all the way to the right. And every time we enter a transaction into a system, whether in Excel or into a database program, we always have to be mindful of what is happening with this subsidiary ledger. In accounting software, you'll often be using some kind of form like a receive payment form, which will link to the invoice, which basically made the increase in the accounts receivable, allowing the system to automatically tie out the subsidiary ledger with it when you're using that data input process. We're going to say that Anderson here is the one we're getting a payment from. Anderson owes us $8,623, but we're only going to be collecting that $5,000, which was the beginning balance that we set up for an invoice that was entered. We're imagining in a prior accounting system, and we're going to be receiving that $5,000. So let's go all the way back to the left and do the journal entry. Now, the journal entry that if you've had accounting background, the theory kind of it, it would say it's a pretty straightforward transaction. We would debit cash, and then we would credit the accounts receivable. So I'm going to put the accounts receivable on the bottom, and it's going to be then for that $5,000. So the debit and credit are for the $5,000. In a normal accounting class, it would just be going to cash up top. But cash for us is the checking account. And again, we don't want to put it directly into the checking account, so we need to make up this other account called undeposited funds. Now note, in accounting software, if you've ever worked with like QuickBooks or something like that, they typically put undeposited funds down here somewhere for logistical purposes, because the undeposited funds isn't really a checking account type, meaning if you were to add a checking account type to an accounting software system, the checking accounts are designed to have other functionality like linking to a bank. So, and you obviously don't want to do that with a clearing account. So it's kind of a problem in the system that then they have to put it down in the undeposited funds area. But here, I think it would actually be more proper to put it right under the checking account. So I'm going to put it right under the checking account because it really is a cash account. It's just cash that's not yet deposited into the checking account, or which we want to group before we put it into the checking account in our accounting system. So I'm going to select these four columns, or not columns, cells, right click on them, and let's insert in there and shift the cells down, shift down, and we're going to call this then undeposited funds. I think that's spelled right. I haven't checked the spelling for a while, so if I have misspelled something along the way, I apologize. I don't spell good. I don't spell good. So we'll then add those up. And so there we have it. And so now we've got what we need. We're going to deposit this not into the checking account, but another cash type of account, which we're going to make a clearing account of undeposited funds. Now let's post it. Now we've got what we need to do the job. So let's do the job then. So now we're in R5 equals, we're picking up then that 5,000 in R5. And then we've got the accounts receivable, the AR, otherwise known as in R6 equals the 5,000 and enter. So we're going from 28,722 down by 5,000 to the 23,722. We in essence moved money or an asset from the accounts receivable to a cash type account, that undeposited funds. We're going to do this now to the general ledger, but we're going to have to add a GL account for undeposited funds. I want to put it right next to the checking account, which is tough because I don't want to copy the checking account because it's like this double long thing. Actually, that wouldn't be too bad to copy, but I'd like to copy these ones over here because I don't want this top piece. I want it to say GL, and I can't copy the skinny because that's right where I want to insert this cell. So I'm going to copy then just from Y to AA. Why? Because I just explained why. So from Y to AA. So we're then going to right click and we're going to say copy and put that in the skinny. We're going to not paste it, but we're going to insert in the skinny. So right click on the skinny and then insert the copied cells right there. So now we've got we don't have a skinny. We need a skinny column right there. We need a skinny. So what I'm going to do is put my cursor on X, and whenever I insert, it goes to the left. So I'm going to right click and then insert there. Now I could remove the formatting with this thing, but what I'm going to do anyways is just take the skinny. I want it to be formatted like a skinny. So I'm going to take this skinny column, the skinny AB, I think it is, home tab, and format paint it right on X. And there we have it. It's been done. Now I'm going to delete the stuff that's in this thing, make this 0. And then I don't need this one on the bottom, so I'm just going to make it blank. I'm going to format paint it with the paintbrush. Just going to whitewash it, just whitewash it like that. And then delete that stuff. So we got the gap in the teeth right there on the general ledger's teeth. It's got a gap in it. We might fix that later. And then we're going to say that this is going to then be equal to the undeposited funds. So that looks good. Now we can post it. Now we can do what it is we started, what we wanted to do in the first place. So undeposited funds, so we're in Z5 equals left to the wall, down to the last transactions. We're picking up that 5,000, and there it is. There it is. We also have to add it to our little check figure up top because we should be out of balance by the 5,000. Double clicking on it, going to the end of it, plus, pointing to that 5,000, and now we're out of balance by 5,000. It matches what's on the trial balance here, and now we'll just post the other side of it, which is to AR, accounts receivable. R, the pirate's favorite account, R, is going to be right here, and then the accounts receivable is over here. So we are in AC7. We're looking 117, I think it was. In AD7 equals left to the wall, down to the last transaction, and the R account, AR, enter. So there we have it. So we got the 28,722 down by the 5,000 to the 23,2 or 722, and we're back in balance up top, and that 23,722 matches the trial balance the trial balance 2. Now we also have to post it to the subledger. The subledger breaking out the AR by who owes us money. All the way over to the right, we're looking at Mr. Anderson. Looking at you, Mr. Anderson. Stop asking questions over here. Pay us our money. So then we're going to say in BF6, this is going to be equal to left to the wall. We're going to go down then to the accounts receivable credit and enter. There we have that. So there's our beginning balance of the 5,000, and then they paid us. So it goes up and then it goes down. They still owe us that 3,623 from the second invoice that we created in this time frame. Our accounts receivable subledger adds up to the 23,722, ties out to the trial balance indicated by the green 0. Let's go all the way and double check it though. All the way to the trustee trial balance, ties out with a pretty solid knot too. It's not like a knot that's going to come undone. This is I know how to tie a knot. This is like a solid knot. So we're going to do it again now. This time I'm going to go all the way to the right, and this time we're going to say that Smith is the one that's, no, not Smith yet. They're going to pay us later. Smith is going to pay us now. No, Jones is going to pay us 7,500. Okay, Jones is going to pay us 7,500 that they owed us from the beginning balances when we put the beginning balances on for an invoice that must have happened before we entered the data into this current system. Okay, that's what we're doing. So we're going to go all the way to the left. Transactions should be way easier now because we have everything set up to do what needs to be done. So now all we need to do is do the thing that needs doing. So we're going to say same format here on the accounts. Alignment indentation for the amount of 7,575 on the debit and credit. Posting that to the trial balance starting with the undeposited funds. So I'm going to post that this time without the keyboard or without the mouse by saying F2 plus F2. Remember, that's the key, F2, F2, F2. So there's going to be that, and then it's going to be 2.5. So there we have it. So now we're up to the 12.5. And the second one is going to be the accounts receivable, scrolling back up. And then we'll go back on here in F2 plus F2 and scrolling back down. We're picking up that 7,005, bringing us up to that 16,222. We got to post that as well to the GL. And so we've got then that undeposited funds. That's the second account now on the GL because that's where we put it. That's where we put it. That's where it is. Where is it? It's where did you put it last time? Second account. That's where we put it. Z6 is going to be equal to left to the wall, down to the last transaction, undeposited funds 7,500. So we got the 5,000 up by 7,500 to the 12,500. That matches out to what's on the trustee TB trial balance, otherwise known as accounts receivable, posting that out. That's the second or third account now on the trial balance. So we'll find that over here. And this also happened on, what are we on? We're on 118 now. 118, we're in AD8 equals left to the wall, and scrolling back down, and we're going to pick up that 7,500 in the AR accounts receivable, bringing the balance down to that 16,222, matching the trial balance at 16,222, the GL back in balance. Now the trial balance and GL for accounts receivable represent who owes us money, or represents that people owe us money, the amount that people owe us. Now we need to post it to the subsidiary ledger, showing who owes us the money, something that would be done in accounting software by using a form that would be the receive payment tying out to the invoice. So we're going to scroll down and say, okay, this was Jones. Jones has paid us. So we're going to be in BF17. I'm just going to post the same thing to Jones's subledge. Left to the wall. I got some steam on this. Boom, to the wall. And then Excel should put some kind of animation when you hit the wall with the speed like that. Any case, accounts receivable 7.5. So we got the 12,099 minus the 7.5 brings us up to the 4,599. If I was to add up the 4 customers, there they are. It adds up to that 16,222, which ties out to the trial balance indicated by the green 0. But let's double check it anyways. Back to the trusty TB. We're looking at that 16,222. Looking at you, 16,222, and it's good. Everything looks good. Let's do it again. So we're going to do it again. One more. Let's go back to who's going to pay us. Let's go all the way back to the subledge and see someone else is going to pay us the money that they owe us. And I think this time it was Smith. So Smith is now going to pay us that 8,000 that they owe us as well. So let's do that. Going all the way left to the wall again. And we'll go on down. Let's make this one as of 118 too. 118. Transactions the same. Couldn't do this with one eye closed. I was going to say with my eyes closed, but that would be a lie. I couldn't do it with my eyes closed. But I still could do it pretty easily. Pretty easy with one eye for sure, without any depth perception. And then we're going to say alignment and indent. This is going to be 8,000. The second credit. So here's undeposited funds. Let's post that on up here to the undeposited funds. So we're in R5, F2 plus F2. Scrolling down, we're going to be picking up that 8,000 and enter. So that brings it up to 20,500, the second half in the accounts receivable. Double clicking on it, going to the end of it, plus putting the cursor back down, picking up the trusty A to the R, A to the R, R. There's 8222, so now we're to the 8222 back in balance. Now we'll post this out to the trusty general ledger, the general ledger. It's still trusty, but that doesn't sound good. It's not the trusty GL, trusty GL, trusty TB. 118. This is going to be in Z7 equals left down to that last transaction, 8,000. There we have it, up from 12.5 by 8 to 20,005. Matches out what's on the trusty TB. There it is, the trusty TB. That's how it goes, not the trusty GL. That doesn't sound right, even though the GL's trusty too, I feel like. But it doesn't rhyme. It doesn't. Anyway, accounts receivable. Accounts receivable is going to be over here. So we're in the AR, the pirate's favorite account. And then we're on AD9 equals left to the wall, down to the last transaction, 8,000, enter. So now the AR goes from 16,222 down by 8,000 to 8,222. The 8,222 matching the trusty TB 8,222. GL back in balance. We also need to think about the subledge, subsidiary ledger by who owes us the money, so we can mark off that Mr. Smith has paid us the money. We don't want to bill them again because customers get angry when you do that. 118. We're in BJ5 equals left to the wall. And we're going to be picking up then this last transaction again of the 8,000 and enter. So then we're picking up the 8,000 minus the 8,000 brings us back to 0. If I was to add up the 4 customers, ending balances, we add up to the 8222. We're back in balance indicated by the green 0. Let's double check it anyway with the trusty trial balance. There's the 188,222 here as well. So next time, or at some future point, we're going to take that 20,500 and have to deposit it into the checking account and group the deposits in the same format that we expect to see them on the bank statement, making reconciling, matching our books to the bank, in other words, easier.